Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Giovanna and my sister Johanna is not currently with me because this video is about me. But first, before I begin the video, I'm going just to say a couple words that I know that we have not posted in a year, and that is because schoolwork last year during our junior year was very heavy for us and our mental health was not that great. But we're going to have another video explaining about that. But today's video is about my journey with endometriosis, of being diagnosed with it, treatment for it, and how I became diagnosed with it, like my symptoms and everything. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, I guess like every story, you have to start at the beginning. So, my story starts with my periods. So, I know that periods are a thing that I found a little hard to talk about because I know it's a normal thing that happens to every woman during their beginning of womanhood, you can say, and I really wasn't comfortable about the topic because it's something new. So I had at the beginning very irregular and painful periods, and it's normal, and no one's experience with period is invalid. Like no two one are the same. There's girls who don't have cramps when they're on their period. There's girls who have mild cramping when they're on their periods, and there's girls with excruciating pain of cramps, like how I had. And it doesn't matter what you have, and if you don't have the same symptoms as I did, there's other ways to figure it out. But for me, I had very painful cramps, and it was very debilitating and physically draining because I would have to leave school early, or I would go to school late because I did not have the energy to go to school because I was in so much pain, even though I would take painkillers like ibuprofen or Motrin, the thing for girl menstrual painkillers, and they weren't working. And we talked to my doctor, and she was like, well, it's because you're young and it's gonna be irregular because you're still young, and it's gonna regulate itself when you're older. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm like 15. I started getting my period when I was 12. So I was like, a couple of years, it regulated itself. And there would be times where I have like 3 months without my period or 2 months without my period. But that was normal. And it was a little stressful because you're like, today's gonna be, tomorrow's gonna be, next week. You didn't know. But as time progressed, my period cramps got worse. And before we got to the point where we were thinking of birth control, I was taking teas and painkillers, like how many doses that you can take, heating pads. There's even a point where our mom's like, let's put a tortilla and you just heat it up in the microwave, and you put like a cloth around it and you put it on your stomach. Or you just take a wet cloth that is wet and you put it in the microwave for 15 seconds as steam, and then put it on top of your clothing. But you have to wear light clothing so you can feel the heat. And my mom's idea of birth control was horrific. Like, she heard horror stories about it. And me, who heard nothing about it, I was very clueless. And you'd be like, well, how do you know? You can look up the internet. I did, but left me confused. It was one of those things that for me, that someone had to explain to me, because I know even if I read it online and it made sense, but for me it wasn't make sense. It's those things where someone has to physically explain it to you. So when my doctor again told my mom if she would like to put me on birth control, my mom wasn't very fond of the idea. So she's like, well, why don't you talk to a nurse at the clinic who works in that area of adolescents with very painful cramping and periods and stuff, whatnot. And my mom's like, okay, let's do that. So that was my first ever, basically, beginning to figuring out my journey for endo. And the lady was very sweet. Sorry for the background noise. And the lady was very sweet, and she explained to us like how birth control worked, what were the different options, like types, like the pill, the ring, the implant, the depot shot. Mom's like, well, none of those. Like, I wasn't very fond of it either. I was scared because to me, I know I was 15 already, really, oh, you're kind of mature. But I know I'm mature, but for me in that aspect, I not like I couldn't take care of myself, but I wasn't ready. So the lady's like, okay, let's do this. How about we just prescribe you ibuprofen for only yourself, 600 milligrams. And I don't remember how many times I had to take it. It's been a long time now. And that was working at first, and that actually made me happy. Because I was like, oh, I'm finally getting relief. I can go finally do the things I love. I can finally go dancing again. Because I was doing dance, and like how I said earlier, it was very debilitating where I couldn't even dance, and I would have to sit out or make excuses because I could not move. And even though they were like, oh, do exercising or light stretching or doing some movement will help with the period cramping. For me, it made me very nauseous and tired, and it made it worse. So I just decided just to sit out. And that was actually helping me get back to the life I had before. And the doctors thought, oh, that's very good progress. But then later on, after a couple of months in treatment, it wasn't working anymore. And we're like, okay, well, we have to take the next step. And that next step was taking birth control. That was a family discussion. In my family, like, I'm very open with my whole family, like my dad and my mom and my sister. We're very open about it. And even though that topic for me was a little stressful because, how I said earlier about periods was a thing that I didn't really like to talk about, I had to talk to it with my dad. And my dad's very supportive. And he understands. Like, his worry about us is our health, and our health comes first. Like my mom always says, like, there can't be no school if you're not in good health. So you have to be in good health to have good school. So, to be in school. So, we talked about the options, and obviously we thought, why not take it? If it wasn't working, we might as well take it. So, the only thing I decided to take birth control was because they had the pill. And I'm very easy. I can take pills very easily with no issue. And so, we did that. And I was on it for a while. And the way I actually got on the birth control was actually not from the nurse at my doctor, but from a doctor who specializes in OB/GYN, but not for adolescents. And he said to come to his clinic, and he'll give us a free consultation about it. There's another consultation to explain it even more, like even though we already had other explanation from the nurse. And his nurse practitioner explained to us birth control and the ones that they offered at their clinic. And so we actually decided that day that I would try the package that they offered. And I did. And so I started the package that they offered, and they were like, okay, but you'll have to find your own OB/GYN that works in adolescents. And we did. And that doctor was in the same office with my pulmonologist. And so we got to her, and I remember our first appointment with her, I brought my birth control packet that the lady gave me, and she was like, these are the wrong package for you. They're too low. I don't remember if it was an estrogen or progesterone. She's like, this too low, you have to get a different kind. She's like, I'll give you the right kind. She's like, okay, I'm giving you the right kind. Let's see if this works. So I did the 3 weeks of the birth control and that 1 week of sugar pills. And when I did get my period, it does last for 8 days, and it was very painful. But we could see that it was somewhat decreasing my pain for me. And so I was on that for a couple months. And then I started with, she's like, since we weren't seeing any progress, she's like, okay, let's do continuous cycling. Meaning, I would just skip the sugar pills and just keep taking the birth control pills for 3 months. And during the 4th month, I would get a week of my period because your body at some point has to release that period. So we did that, and we did not see any improvement. And there was one time for one of my appointments with her, she had medical students who come in before her because they're learning. I didn't mind. And they would ask me and my mom, ask us if there was any things that, if it was getting better or anything changes or anything like that. And I asked them, is it normal to have pain every day? Now, I didn't have pain every day when I started having my periods. I started developing that later on. It was not with the birth control pills, but I didn't really notice it because I would sometimes just get very painful cramps one day out of the blue. It doesn't matter where I was, and it would just last for like a minute or 30 seconds, and then it would be gone. And then some days it would be there. It would be there for several days, and then it wouldn't be there at all. So it wasn't in my mind like something I had to think about or bring it up for some odd reason. I don't know. So she's like, how about, since she wasn't liking how my progress was going, there was no real progress. She's like, how about let's get an ultrasound done? The reason for the ultrasound to be done was because she said I was having similar symptoms that she had a patient before several years ago, same age as me, I was around 16 now, and that she was having very painful period cramps and pain. And my pain was actually not just like your lower abdomen or lower backside, it was right directly in your, like, where your appendix would be, but like lower on the right side, like between you can say like your groin muscle, because I pulled my groin muscle, so in that area. And she's like, let's see if there's anything there, because endometriosis is when the lining of the uterus, which is the blood that sheds every month in a growth cycle, it is starts to grow outside. And they don't know why that happens for some odd reason, but it does. It doesn't happen to everyone. And it can cause very painful period cramps because it's working outside and it's not actually in the place it's supposed to be. So it can cause hurtful pain, very painful cramps or pain for several days or every day. And she's like, with an ultrasound being done, you can see that. So I got an ultrasound done. You couldn't see anything. There was nothing there. She's like, okay. The second way to diagnose if you have endometriosis is have surgery. Now, when she brought up the surgery, I was actually excited because for a year now, well, half a year now, a year and a half, I was already living with pain, and I did not know how it felt to live with no pain. When they asked me when was the last time you didn't have pain, I couldn't answer that question because there's no response, because my life by that time I was just constantly in pain. It became part of me, of my life, what I had to deal with. It was just normal, even though it's not normal. And I was already frustrated, angry, sad, because I was wondering, why did it have to happen to me? What did I do wrong to deserve this? And my mom did talk to me. She's like, I did nothing wrong. It's just that's how my body is. And it took time for me to accept that. And it took time for me to actually tell people that I was on birth control. Like, I would ask people who I knew, like who were physicians or work in different clinics, like the effects of birth control, because I was still on edge about it. Even though I already taken it, there was something I just didn't feel comfortable, like how I said. But I said yes. I was like, she asked me if we would like to do surgery, if I was up to it. And I said yes. Mom said no. Because my mom was scared. And I was actually sad, because I was like, at least maybe I could finally have the answer to my question as to what is causing me this pain. And if it's endometriosis, well then there's a treatment. But the catch was, for me to have surgery, I had to go on a different birth control method, like how I said earlier. There are different types. So I decided to go on Depo. And because I was like, I was actually very hesitant on taking it, because the only reason I told her I took birth control because there was a pill, like how I said. I didn't feel very mature, or I did not feel comfortable. But after that time, after time has passed, I felt comfortable. I was ready to do it. So we did Depo. And Mom's like, okay, well, at least it's going to help us get closer to the answer as to if you do have endometriosis or if you don't have endometriosis. Just to see what other treatment needs to be put on. So I went on Depo, and she had to make me go to a different doctor who specializes in surgeries, because she didn't specialize in surgeries, but for OBGYN. So I met a new doctor and she was so sweet. The lady was so sweet, and she explained to me about the surgery and what it was. And it is called, because I brought the sheet because I cannot pronounce it. It was laparoscopic surgery, meaning they don't really cut your abdomen like a slice. They cut like little tiny incision holes, and I will put up pictures of that part later. But I was like, okay, it's not really that invasive. It's still a surgery in the abdomen. There's still some risk, but it's not as risky. I was like, it's okay. I already said I was already up to the deal of surgery, even though they didn't tell me how it was gonna be. I was like, let's do it. I wanted to find an answer to what I had. So I had to be on Depo for a couple months before I had my surgery. And I was on that, and it was working, but it was still not diminishing my pain that I felt, that I was dealing with every day. So last year, in 2020, in May, I had planned to do my surgery. But COVID, it did not happen in May. I had to wait until August 12th to do my surgery, which was a couple days before I had school start. And it was actually 2 weeks before school started for me. And I remember waiting for that time for surgery. Days before my surgery, my dad asked me for the first time, he asked me, do you feel nervous for surgery? And I said, no, I didn't feel nervous. I felt numb. I didn't know what to feel. I was excited, nervous, I guess, and I was just frustrated and angry of all these emotions I had pent up for so long because I wanted to figure out what was wrong with me. And I might now know what the answer was. And so I told him, no, I don't know. I don't feel nervous, I feel numb. And that's how I felt up to the day of surgery. Now, before I actually had to get my surgery done, I had to get COVID tested because so everything would be fine. And Mom also got COVID tested so they wouldn't tell her no, she can't come in. And I'm still 17. And at that, since the hospitals put new guidelines for the COVID, they said if you have 18 or older, you can only enter by yourself. Since I was 17, my mom can enter with me, and I was like, yes, because I could not do that alone. So we had to leave our house at 4 o'clock in the morning. My surgery was programmed at 7 o'clock. Going to be there early, and it was a long drive, even though there's not much traffic from where we lived to where the hospital was, which was an hour away. An hour, 2 hours depending on traffic, but since it's very early morning, there was not much, but I'm going to include clips and pictures of all that later in the video. So when I got to the hospital that day, it felt all surreal. And I know that I said that I didn't feel nervous, and I still didn't even feel nervous that day until it was time for surgery. I felt so nervous the time up until it was time for my surgery that my mom told the nurses that, is there something that you can give her because I have anxiety. I do have anxiety, and I've been in treatment for that. And they're like, okay, we're gonna give you a cocktail to help relax you. And so they gave me this cocktail to relax, just to calm me down, not put me to sleep, just calm me down. And my mom's like, let me tell you goodbye before you doze off, you don't remember what for to drug you up. And I was like, okay. And I took some pictures of my mom, and and then I passed out before even entering the OR room. And I was so excited because I wanted to see what the inside of the OR looked like. But I fell asleep after we turned the corner of where I was staying, we went in the hallway, I just passed out. But I do remember when they moved me from the bed onto the surgery table, I was more asleep than awake, and so I was like, huh? And they told me, okay, move your body to the table. And I'm like, this table? I had my eyes closed. And they're like, yes. And I moved, and then I fell asleep again. And then I woke up, barely even seeing, my vision very blurry. I can just see the people strapping my legs, and my arms are being strapped to the side. That's it. I don't remember anything. But I did have my, what's it called? Your hospital band And I also had another band, which is for allergies. I did have, because I'm allergic to penicillin, so I had to wear it was red. And it was kind of surreal just being there, and my doctor told me, she's like, we're going to take pictures, because she wants to show me what the inside looked like, and I was like, yes, that's fine, I want to see it as well, like, how does it look like? After I woke up from surgery, I woke up very moody, very angry. I wanted to use the restroom. And I told Mom, like, Mom, I need to go use the restroom. Take me to the restroom. She's like, I can't. You don't have anything in your system. I don't, because they put a catheter in you, obviously, since you have surgery. But I had to go pee, and I really had a bad sensation. And I was very angry with my mom. And then she said, if you don't calm down, I'm going to they're going to yell at me for taking you, and they might take me out of the room, and so that calmed me down. But I woke up very moody for some odd reason. So later on, after I woke up, then like an hour passed since the surgery, and I was fully conscious. I was trying to wake up because I don't like the idea of going to sleep. When I had my wisdom teeth removed, I did not want to go to sleep. I was fighting the anesthesia and the way, and so that's why they gave me the cocktail as well. So when my doctor came back, she said we did take a biopsy of what we removed, and we did remove as much as we could. She's like, the surprising part was where you had so much pain on my right side, I had very little endometriosis. But on my left side, where I had no pain at all, that's where most of my endometriosis was, and in some other areas in my lower abdomen area that they could remove. They couldn't remove everything because in delicate places of where it was, but they tried to move most of it, like how I knew that's how they said earlier. And just hearing that I have endometriosis was a relief, even though I know that endometriosis is something that does change one life, because you can become infertile if it's not treated within a certain time frame and given the correct treatment. But since I started treatment early, they don't think that's really a possibility. But I have to keep up with my doctors if anything changes. So when the same day I went in surgery, the same day I left out of the hospital, it was just an in surgery. I was an outpatient. I was treated in the children's area because since I'm 17, and it really did change my life. Like, after the surgery, no one knew I got surgery. No one except my family. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post on social media, nowhere. And then when I got to school, people didn't know I had surgery just 2 weeks ago, and it was an abdomen surgery. Even though it was a laparoscopic surgery, I did have 4 incisions made. I had 1 incision made on my lower right side of my abdomen, 1 incision horizontally from my belly button, and 2 incisions on my lower left side of my abdomen. Is that there was actually going to be 3, but to take out the biopsy, it would have to go through your private parts, if you want to say. But since the doctor knew I'm a very more of a conserved girl, and I wasn't really up to the idea of that, she just made a 4th incision so I can feel comfortable about it. And I don't really mind. I do have scars, obviously, but I don't mind the scars. Like, there's just something about my life and my story that I don't feel ashamed of. And if anyone sees them, because that's there, because there's something about my journey in my life that it is medical. And it was the only way to ever find out what I had. And living with endometriosis is hard. Some people have it worse than others. Mine is mild. It is not severe, but nor very low. It is mild, because I did have a lot. But after that surgery, I didn't have pain anymore. And I didn't have pain anymore, and I didn't remember when was the last time I didn't have pain for so long. And after that, I told my mom, like, Mom, I don't feel pain. Obviously, it felt sore, but after I recuperated from my surgery, I told Mom, I don't have pain anymore, like where I used to. And I didn't have pain, obviously, like when I was recuperating after my surgery, because my abdomen was not really it was still swollen. They have to pump up your stomach with gas, but I didn't have pain like how I used to every day. I was like, I did not remember how my life was without pain. It was so different. And I felt like a new me. And it's been nice not to live with pain now. So it's right now February, and I had my surgery in August. It's been several months now, and I've been doing great. There are some times now where I do get those out of a sudden blues, those pains, but otherwise than that, I've been doing great. And it really did change my life of finally knowing what was wrong with me, because I didn't know anymore. I even asked God, like, why? Like, what did I ever do to deserve this? Like, what did I do wrong? And I was like, I'm trying to do everything I can. And I'm like, I know I'm not the perfect student or daughter or sibling, but I tried my best. But this surgery really closed the chapter, but opened a new one. Of now, this is how my life is gonna be, and it will be a long road ahead of me for treatment. Because obviously, later on, in a couple of years, I would have to get surgery again because endometriosis grows again. That's just how things are. But if you have your treatment, you can control it, and that's what I've been doing now. And it's been doing great. And when I was looking up for my endometriosis story, I didn't know how I was going to start this video. I didn't know if I wanted to do this video because I felt very uncomfortable saying it to others. But after I got to school, I was saying to my closer friends, telling them my story, and they were very supportive, and I saw there was nothing wrong telling anyone. And the reason I decided to do this video was because when I was searching up videos of people's endometriosis stories, because there's other videos out there, but there were girls that were older than me, in their 20s, or early 20s, late 20s, no one teenage years. Because when you're a teenager, no one really, they do listen to you, but you're not validated, because like, oh, you're still young, your period is still going to regulate in a couple years. It's normal to have painful periods. But I'm like, but if it's very painful and it's debilitating your life, just tell them and go to different doctors. Because I had to go to different doctors because there was doctors who didn't believe me. They're like, oh, well, this pain didn't come out like from a circus or anything. And there were some doctors that were professional and some that were unprofessional, I mean. And you just have to find those doctors who will listen to you. And it is hard. And it did take a lot of time calling different doctors' offices, our insurance, seeing who will be able to see me. Because fighting adolescent GYOBN, that, I can't say it, it's hard. It was very hard. But we did find it, and there are doctors. But you just have to look for them, and you have to look for the ones who will listen to you and validate your story, like I said, because we are so young. And yes, I will be turning 18 soon, but I started my journey when I was 15. And it was a long journey, a long, sad, painful journey, but now I'm doing better, even though I do have those times when I'm not doing great. But it is possible, and I wanted to just put that story out there because it just sometimes takes for people to hear other people of the same age be like, it's okay to be afraid, it's okay if you have pain. But it's not okay if it's debilitating your life and you don't feel like, and you feel like there's something wrong with you. Then speak up and then find different doctors or talk to your parents, because they're there for you. They're like they're your first support team ever. They're gonna be there always with you from the beginning till the end. And that's how they are. I do want to say this. It is a long road, but it was worth it, even though it took a very long time, because you just have to find the people out there. It doesn't come easy, and I know my life is not going to be easy, because that's what I'm living with, but it's just me. That's how I am. It's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you having this disease, and if you don't have it, that's great, because this disease, it's called endometrial disease, but I don't like to call it disease. I just call it endo, because that's how you say it for short. There's no need to call it something else. It is something, it is like a health issue, but it's just you. That's how your body is. There's nothing you can control about it. That's how our bodies are made. But yeah, even though my sister is a twin, she doesn't have it. So just because you can have people that is like your twin or siblings may have it doesn't mean you can have it, or mean you may have it. It just depends. But there's nothing wrong with it. But it's not okay to live in pain, like I said. So well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I was probably looking around a lot because this is at just some points where I just cannot make eye contact, or I have to look in different directions because I was about to cry. And I'm not a big person to show my cry on camera or just cry in front of other people. I don't like to do that. But thank you for hearing my story, and thank you for watching this video. And I hope it at least helps people out there. And if it just helps one person, I'm very thankful that I did this, and I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to do this, because not everyone can tell their story, and I wanted to tell mine. So I hope to see you guys in the next video, and love you. Bye.